The Department of Defense and the intelligence agencies found out about it primarily from the press is unacceptable. I certainly wasn't satisfied with any plans they have in place to prevent this from happening in the future. So it's a problem, and the damage is already real.
Just a few minutes ago, folks, a Senate classified briefing on the recent leaks from the Pentagon just wrapped up. Now, this week, Secretary Lloyd Austin has been intimately involved with, quote, examining the scope and scale of the potential damage to relationships with our allies and how they can prevent future leaks. Now, my biggest concern here is that they don't know how much has been leaked, nor the contents of the leaks. And we probably won't know the fallout of this until it's brought up in some foreign negotiation as leverage against us. Now, this is a really big deal because if foreign leaders know classified U.S. parameters for anything, ranging from seemingly small things like resource availability to troop movements, or even something as big as military intentions, or even the exposure for us spying on our friends, which we know was a huge concern of this leak, it gives other nations a ton of leverage. But it gives them discretion, too. Think about this. If we have been spying on them for who knows how long, they might just be angry about it, and they might decide not to share some of their intel, like a terrorist whereabouts that they know of. Maybe the next time they had some hard-fought intel from an imminent threat on America, maybe even another ally, do they notify us? I mean, we just spied on them. Maybe not. Does the leader of a country reading these links think that we may have snubbed or spied on, feel that it might not be worth it to burn their intel apparatus, their embed project that they've been working on for 5 years to stop a terror attack on American soil? Who knows? But that's the problem. I don't want to go down the hypotheticals trail, but let's say some of those leaks included something like munition stockpiles that may or may not vary vastly from the agreements and treaties that we have with these countries. You think any nation's ever going to enter into another treaty with us again? You see the issue here? Now, Jack Teixeira might just be like a 20-something-year-old airman, but the information he had access to seems to be super compartmentalized here. You might be wondering how he got this information out to the public, but let me tell you, there's actually more than 3 million people with current active secret clearances and above. There's over 1 million with top secret. So 1.2 million now, I think. Our classification system also relies mostly on the honor system, folks. Sure, there's extensive background checks, sometime polygraph tests, and a litany of other character evaluation metrics, but if you've never done anything wrong in your past, and your job in the military requires or needs or has you accessing said information, you're in. And that's it. When you walk into a secure compartmentalized information facility known as a SCIF, sure, the procedure written on the door is to leave your phone outside, but do phones get taken in? Sometimes they do. Can documents be brought in and out? Of course. Others around you can police these policies and they can notify others if they think there's a breach. But think about this. I mean, look at the person you work next to or have for multiple years. If you work with this guy and he's your friend now, maybe, they never gave you a reason to be suspicious, and every day that person appears to be doing their job, you wouldn't even suspect it. So how would you know? Security clearances are given out based on trust, and once you have it, at least in my years of having one, I've almost never seen anyone question someone's motives in the moment. Just don't do it. Keep in mind, Joe Biden walked out of the White House without the power to declassify while he was vice president, mind you, with top secret documents. No one said a word until his lawyer found him. Some from even his time in the Senate, meaning he walked out the front door of a SCIF with top secret documents and no one said anything for decades. So what's the solution? Well, joining me now is someone who was in the room for the classified briefing, Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson. Sir, I really appreciate you being here today.
Well, Carl, glad to be with you.
All right, so I know it's a classified briefing, but what can you tell us that you learned today?
Didn't learn anything. I think some reporter came up to me afterwards and asked the same question. I said it was just a bunch of bureaucratic gobbledygook, which is generally what these classified briefings are. Carl, if you were elected president of the United States, and your game plan surreptitiously was to come into office and do everything you could to weaken America, put us on a path to destruction, I don't think you could come up with a better game plan than what the Biden administration has actually implemented. 40-year high inflation, record gasoline prices, the war on fossil fuel driving up the cost of energy, open borders, a flood of illegal immigrants, illegal drugs killing our citizens, the embarrassing and dangerous surrender in Afghanistan. This, it is simply shocking. The problem that we have, though, is we have a complicit and corrupt and compliant media that's not holding them accountable. And they're keeping the American public in the dark, about so many of these things. For example, the border. I mean, the general public does not understand what an enormous catastrophe we have on our southern border right now, because other than outlets like Newsmax, mainstream media is not covering it. They're not beating the drum about how we have to secure our border. So no, this is sad situation for America.
Yeah, Senator, I do want to get to the IRS because I know you have a lot to say about that. But real quick, they didn't give any scope of like what was leaked. We don't know, who has this or specifically how we can stop it. None of that.
No, it literally was bureaucratic gobbledygook. Here's all the assessments they're going to do, and this is what they're, It was BS. From my standpoint, I walked out after about 45, 50 minutes because I was learning nothing.
Well, I shouldn't be surprised by this given my time with the federal government as well, but sir, it pains me to have them briefing senators and wasting their time like that. I want to talk a little bit about the IRS. Now, you had something to say about this. I want the audience to take a listen.
An IRS agent showing up at a taxpayer's home, that taxpayer just happens to be testifying before the House Judiciary Committee on the weaponization of government against U.S. citizens. I mean, the chance of that happening is infinitesimal.
We want to help and get a handle on why you may not have filed, on why you might have an outstanding balance due.
You're not answering my question in terms of how often that would happen.
So, Senator, beyond that soundbite as well, we find out today that a whistleblower from the IRS has come forward and says the Biden administration is completely mishandling the Hunter Biden issue of potential suspicious activity reports.
Which doesn't surprise me. So first, in terms of the new revelation on Hunter Biden. So apparently there's a whistleblower that has allegations. We haven't seen the allegations. He wants to share them with Senate Finance and House Ways and Means. So that we can get to the bottom of this. It doesn't surprise me at all. We have an FBI whistleblower saying that U.S. Attorney Weiss does not have the resources to do an adequate investigation into Hunter Biden. He's the one that's, undertaking the investigation. So that shouldn't surprise anybody that the Biden administration is not enacting or engaging in equal application of justice, and certainly holding Hunter Biden accountable. So that's one issue. Today in Senate Finance, we had the new IRS Commissioner Denny Warfel before our committee, and my questions really centered around the fact that there's going to be $45 billion more funding for enforcement. And my question was pretty simple. What are you going to do to make sure that $45 billion is spent in an apolitical or nonpartisan way? And I said, because we have instances, of the IRS being weaponized against Americans. So certainly under the Obama administration, another lawless administration, the IRS targeting of Tea Party groups. Then we obviously have the lack of any kind of accountability or prosecution of Hunter Biden, because he's part of that elite class that are not going to understand, or be held accountable. And then the most recent example was when Matt Taibbi was testifying before the House Subcommittee on Weaponization of Government Against U.S. Citizens. That very day, an IRS agent shows up at his house and leaves a note saying, "Call me in 4 days." Now, the question I asked for the commissioners is that normal? Does the IRS, as the first step in their notification of a taxpayer, go to their house and leave a note? Listen, I've paid a lot of taxes. I've filed a lot of tax returns. I've never had an IRS agent visit me at all. That's not the way the IRS operates. So to me, we need some answers. We need them soon. And I hope the new commissioner is transparent and provides us, how did that happen?
Well, Senator, I wish we could clone your initiative here. Senator Johnson, appreciate what you're doing. Appreciate you joining us.
Have a good day.
All right.